Hi, Tolagbe.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good morning.
Tolagbe.
Hi, Devoe. Oh, I need to rename myself.
Yes, you do.
To what?
On Zoom.
You see, we only have one paid account in this house. So,
You need to come around. So you come around.
Come around where? Where's the camera?
Tolagbe, what's your surname, please? Sorry.
Martins.
Martins.
Oh, you're mixed race, right?
Even if I were, it's not my name now. It's my married name.
And we didn't know that. I thought a white woman was behind the screen.
So Tolagbe.com. Tolagbe, we're streaming on YouTube at the same time.
Yeah, hence, did you not notice the headband and the earrings?
You're so ready.
Have you ever seen me with earrings before?
Good to see you here like this. Wonderful.
The Smooth Breakfast presents.
Where's the screen?
This is the story.
Yo.
In-depth analysis.
You're in a different location today, right?
Yeah.
Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Headlines.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for Freshly Pressed 981 on Smooth 98.1, Love Music, Love Life. My name is Valentine Ohu, your host on Smooth Breakfast. Freshly Pressed is a segment where I'll bring you detailed analysis of our newspaper stories. And when I say thank you for joining us, I mean Devoe Okorie, who's here. Hi, Devoe.
Hi, Lagos. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Val, Tolagbe. They're cool new things despite the drama in the country.
And good morning to you, Tolagbe, Tolagbe.com. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lagos, Valentine, and Devoe.
Thank you for joining us. You can listen live on Smooth 98.1 on the app. If you download the app, go to the App Store and type Smooth 91 FM Lagos. You can also watch us live on YouTube, youtube.com/Smooth 91 FM Lagos, where you can simply type Smooth 98.1 Lagos in the search bar on YouTube and subscribe, and you can watch us live. And you can send a message through Twitter at Smooth981FM with a hashtag freshly pressed 981. You can also send it to our WhatsApp number 0809-444-0981. Send those thoughts and comments on any story that interests you. Tolagbe and Devoe. We have 8 stories to go through. Let's see if time permits us. The first is on the deliberations that have started on the floor of the Senate to unbundle, that's the favorite word here, unbundle MyPost and make it compliant, in a bid to make it compliant with international best practices. What are your thoughts, Devoe, on this story?
Right. I wouldn't call it a feel-good story, but the Senate did make a move through it was sponsored by Yahaya Abdullah, who seconded the bill with the Senator Oluremi Tinubu. Okay, it's a bill to repeal the current Nigerian Postal Service Act 127 and revamp it. Now, the whole idea is to restructure the agency for more or less up-to-date, timely competitiveness and to work properly in the 21st century, right? And what they're saying that they want the Postal Service to operate in line with the 21st century information age by introducing and modernizing its services with ICT, that's information and communication technology. Now, the truth is all well sounding and good, but my issues are with the approach that is being taken here. And this has to do with, you know, the Nigerian Postal Service is one of the oldest institutions within the country, which was established even before independence, whereby during the colonial days, as you know, courier of parcels, letters, etc. And I'm sure people these days don't even know what a letter written to someone else means, or the act of receiving a letter, or if you remember those days, what we refer to as pen pals, whereby somebody sends you a postcard from where they're having holiday with a kiss on it, hello, hi. Those days are gone. Now, as technological advancements have come, yes, the introduction of email, the introduction of the global shipping services have more or less rendered the Nigerian or the state postal service obsolete. Therefore, while the introduction of ICT is good, what I believe is that the Senate or even the Postal Service in their making of bids need to drive for different approaches to modernizing them, because it's not just about giving them more money. Money is not the issue here. The Postal Service, for what most people don't know, are one of the most asset-based institutions, meaning they have locations and properties in over 4,700 locations within the country, still existing till date. So what that means is that for any service that you require that requires what they call last mile, let me break that. Last mile simply means getting to the people, okay? The Postal Service acts as a channel. So what do you call it? INEC can use the Postal Service as a form of creating polling centers around the nation if they wanted to. Telcos can use the Postal Service as a means of getting their services out there. Banks can use the what do you call it? The Postal Service. So there's much more to the Postal Service capacity to be able to deliver services and still make a good profit on top of it, because as we know, the Postal Service has been operating at a loss. Secondly, how they go about this is, one, the same discussion we had with power, the same discussion we had with telco, which worked, same discussion we're having with the downstream petroleum sector right now. You can either sell the Postal Service and then the government doesn't have to worry about it again.
AKA
okay?
privatize.
You can, yes, you can also commercialize it, which is where you bring in the private sector players, all right, to take different chunks and operate in different areas, just like we have in the power industry. You can also liberalize it, whereby you ask, almost like what we do in the upstream oil and gas sector, you ask a private sector operator to take over the management of NIPOST and run it for some time with a bid to providing upscaling and services and rendering a profit to governments. I mean, we don't have to be doing things the old way. If you remember, during the telcos, when we had NIPOST had ran donkey years, unprofitable, wasting our money and just creating billionaires in some places.
Yes, but they were efficient at the time.
Who was it? Wow, say that again.
Wait, I'll say that again.
Tolagbe, did you hear that?
NIPOST.
No, but you meant NITEL. That was the issue. You said NIPOST, but you meant NITEL. And we all remember the dark days of going to queue to make an international call or...
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we all remember the dark days of queuing outside to make an international call. We remember the dark days of cyber cafes. So, I mean, we can see what the liberalization has done for the telcos. And interestingly enough, this particular debate about the post offices is not just a Nigerian one. It's happening everywhere in the world, because at the end of the day, last mile logistics is really important.
It is important. And when I said, NIPOST was efficient, I remember when I had the post office box. I still remember the first 3 digits of that box, the post office box number, and how we easily received mails from outside the country.
Yeah, and even internally.
Isn't that interesting, though? I reckon that's because it's a colonial legacy, so it was designed to work ab initio.
Wow, that shade is too much this morning. Let's move on to the next story. Devoe, thank you for that robust analysis. Our next story is from This Day newspaper. Court orders extension of NIN registration by 2 months. This news might read as a cheering story for a lot of people because there's so much anxiety. But 2 months extension, that's one case. First of all, the ruling was filed by, or rather the case was filed by one Mr. Monday Ubani against the federal government. He lumped in the Attorney General and the Nigerian Communications Commission and also Minister of Communications and Digital Economy into this case. Being granted by the Federal High Court, does it stand against the federal government's ruling on in this issue?
We thank you, Valentine. So we live in a country with rule and law. And we have a government that recognizes the rule of law and respects the rule of law. So I see no reason why this would not stand. I mean, if they don't want it to stand, they have recourse to go to a higher court. That's within their rights. However, the lessons here are actually there are quite a few sort of takeaways from this. First of all, Ubani, who was the legal practitioner, Mr. Monday Ubani, who actually sued on behalf of Nigerians, arguing that the ultimatum was unconstitutional. And he cited a number of issues. The first being that the time given was grossly inadequate and would cause severe hardship. It would infringe on the rights of freedom of expression. And he also reminded everyone that we are still in a pandemic and the deadline given would result in a rush on all the centers. People would be clustering and aggregating in violation of COVID-19 safety protocols. So I think there's a couple of takeaways from this. The first is that we shouldn't just continue to suffer and smile. Somebody decided that he was going to use the law to actually argue on behalf of Nigerians. And I think this is really important. It's not enough for us just to phone into Smooth 98.1 and complain or tweet and complain. Somebody has got up and done the right thing. Now, he's a former NBA chairman, so Ikeja chairman, so he's not a no one, but this is the point, right? He's a Nigerian like me and you, and he has done something within his powers, within his area of expertise. And we've actually made some progress. So we'll see where we get to with this deadline. We'll see if either the NCC or the Ministry of Communications or even the federal government decide to challenge this ruling. But I think, as you said, Valentine, this is good news. This is the Office of the Citizen working. This is the rule of law working. I think this is a win, for everyone.
And like you said, this is more than just calling a radio station to complain. This is actually doing something.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we saw the horrendous scenes when, these deadlines, horrendous. Who knows how many super spreader events resulted from that, and the hardship and the stress. And I think what may not be clear here is the fact that there remains an embargo on replacement of SIMs. If your phone is lost or stolen right now, or you're trying to set up a new business, I don't believe you can actually get a new phone number right now. So perhaps somebody else, and this is the thing, we always want somebody else to do it.
I'll confirm, Tolagbe, you can't. Because I walked into one of the offices recently, last week, precisely. I walked into one of the telco offices and asked for those services that you just mentioned, especially porting from one service offering to another with the same number. They said that has been banned. There's an embargo on that.
Exactly. So maybe we need to ask Mr. Ubani to go back again and help us to get that in as well.
Right. But if we're arguing against COVID-19 restrictions and protecting people,
business must continue and the economy must go on. So people need to be able to, work.
Thank you for that. This story might interest you, Devoe. While we're talking about human rights violations across the world, Nigeria has been pegged as one country that has its military violating certain human rights, has been infringing on human rights in certain capacities, especially with their fight against insurgency in the north. But this story from the Vanguard newspaper has this headline: EndSARS, army trains officers on human rights. Something interesting I find here is that while this is conducted, the Chief of Staff, Brigadier General Nsikak Edet, said that the Chief of Army Staff vision was to build the Nigerian Army repositioned to professionally defeat all adversities in a joint environment, and also says in the same breath that this exercise was taking place as a fallout of the NSAS protest and how the military personnel was, alleged to have treated the civilians. What are your thoughts, please?
Well, generally, the objective was the Chief of Army Staff, that's General Leo Irabo, the new Chief of Army Staff, in his strategic vision for repositioning the Army, is attempting to address the professionalism and conduct of officers on duty, right? Now, this is the key objective. Secondly, he did say that in these times, unlike before, the social media has become a very virile tool used by various citizens. So it's not like those days that things go on unchecked, that now soldiers in the act of duty will be captured on cameras, on video. Thirdly, he was speaking about even soldiers themselves who engaged in sending out unauthorized videos, photographs, that some of these things do bring slack and negative reputation to the military. Fourthly, he was talking about, because you remember in NSARS, some did say that the Army applied unwarranted kinetic force. And that's a lot of terminology, but basically the application of force was high-handed. And he was saying, and it's not just in the NSARS scenario, that they were training them in basically what the Army has always, and militaries globally have known as the rules of engagement. All right. Now, finally, he also spoke about the issue of when soldiers do die in service. Most times the families do besiege the military quarters to find out what happened. So he was talking to them about understanding the use of next of kin, and whereby when the Army has obligations, once an officer dies on duty, with this process, it's able to take care of all the things that the soldier was entitled to. Now, all well said and good. This was an empowerment and training for senior level officers. My question is, what about the police? They're the ones that truly need this training and rules of engagement. Why? Because I'd rather have a rugged and very, ruthless military for a police that is well trained for civic duties, because we're not really trying to get our soldiers to adapt to a civilian environment.
No, but they need to.
No, they don't, because what we have in Nigeria is an anomaly, an aberration, whereby
I understand
we have our military in 34 states out of 36 within the country because of the collapse of our internal civilian force, which is the police. This training is meant, I'm not saying that the Army shouldn't get, of course they should get training. Of course they should be properly conducted and should be professional. But I'm bringing out the larger rot here. The real issue is that we need to build back our police force as it was in the 1960s and 70s, whereby in every community there was peace and calm, and let's call it in a state of where people were law-abiding, because they knew that there were functional police who knew their duties, who did not overreach, who were not trigger-happy, and some form of justice and criminal justice system existed. That is where the real issue is. I don't expect in the future to continue, anytime there's an issue, I'm calling on the military. The military, by act, should not be interfering in internal issues. This was why the last COS, Burotai, when he made that statement, that when you people heap the problems of the insurgency in Nigeria, it's not really the military's fault,
because
they're only assisting.
It's an after effect of the lack of I say responsibility in some sense by the internal security forces, who are overstretched, arguably. But thank you, Devoe. I really appreciate your thoughts. But you get my point earlier.
I do.
Right? Yes. So this FME sent in this message on WhatsApp. It says, speaking on NIN registration and the extension that was, granted by the court order, it says, and there will be more extensions for NIN registration because a lot of Nigerians couldn't be bothered to go and do the needful during the given time and feel they're entitled. Femi, he found it easy. It doesn't mean everybody else found it easy, right? Shego says privatize night posts, period. Samuel from Lekki says, how exactly will NIPOs make profit when almost every bus transport company are now delivering parcels? Don't even talk about the fact that these appointed, those appointed to head and work there will be their friends and families who will depend on government budgets rather than on what they generate. Yemi from Marina says, good morning, team. I worked for the Postal Service between 2015 and 2018. There is indeed vast and enormous opportunities that have remained untapped in these organizations. This is the only organization with presence in almost all local governments in Nigeria. Yet, the politics at the top will not let this organization work the way it's supposed to. Not to be a Judas, please read up on the stamp duty case in court between NIPOST and FIRS. Thank you. He said, God bless Nigeria. Yemi says, good morning. This is Yemi. Explicit analysis by Devoe. Restructuring of NIPOST is good news. The USPS records loss of about $8.8 billion annually. And SMEs SMEs record about hundreds and hundreds of billions, giving room for growth of business and economy as a whole. NIPOS can be strategically used to achieve this. I do not suppose you intend for NIPOS to record losses, but I guess it's profits you're looking at. Fabian from Request says, NIPOS actually used to be very efficient. I still have and use a post office box. I have a wish that it would not always take a move from Senate or House of Representatives for those heading such organizations or institutions to make a paradigm shift or improve their services. Good morning, Fabian. Thank you. Joseph says the bill on the postal service is long overdue, though I don't have details, but it should be made to compete with foreign counterparts. I use the post offices to receive parcels and packages, but oftentimes it's either damaged or lost without trace. Joseph, thank you so much. And interestingly, this also occurs in the US. Some of my folks complain of parcels being missing, and it's from the postal service.
But they're traced, and they
so
can be.
The thing about the US right now is there's an active campaign to undermine and depress the USPS. You know, there's a clear campaign ongoing because they want it to be privatized. So there's a clear push to render it so inefficient and so unprofitable that it should be privatized. I don't know, who knows? But I mean, that the campaign has been unmasked.
How's that different from what's happening in Nigeria?
Well,
No campaign here.
Whoa.
He choke.
I didn't think that would come on Freshly Pressed, but anyway. Yiko says the Royal Mail in UK also ran bankrupt and was part privatized in 2013. The USPS is currently struggling to break even. Going to your point, Tolagbe. It says queuing to make international calls in cyber cafes were not dark days. They were revolutionary at the time. Technology evolves in stages. Thank you. Tayo says the army is meant to tackle external aggression when invited into the country. The enemies become the same. The human rights training is a welcome development. Thank you for that. And then Emeka Onelum says, first of all, that term, bloody civilian, has to be expunged from their psyche. That usually gives them the mind to do what they do. All right, let's move on to another case that happened in the court, but this time it was a bit of a drama because at Abuja Magistrate Court, a magistrate sent a lawyer to jail. I mean, summarily speaking, because he challenged his ruling. What are your thoughts on this, Tolagbe, and the NBA's retort?
Well, the NBA is protesting, which is their job. They are primarily to protect lawyers and the rule of law. So an NBA member is entitled to this level of protection and oversight. It's kind of like their union. So this is the right thing. So it's being alleged that the lawyer interjected while the magistrate was trying to deliver a ruling on an application by the opposing party. And this interjection so angered the magistrate that he ordered his arrest and had him sentenced for contempt. So this was at the Abuja Magistrates Court. The magistrate, Ibrahim Mohammed, ordered the police to arrest and handcuff this lawyer, Ibru Bath. So as we speak, there's a petition that's been written by the NBA Abuja, protesting an arbitrary use of power by the magistrates of Zone 6 Magistrate Court Abuja. And the association rightly points out that any unruly act or disrespect from anyone in the court should be challenged, should not be tolerated, but it should certainly not result in a summary sentence without giving the lawyer a fair hearing. So I think so the statement continues to say that they will be submitting a petition. And I think it's important, and even back to what we were saying about NIN, this is why we test the law, we use the mechanisms within our power: protest, civil disobedience, court challenges. All these are designed so that when we see something that is wrong, unconstitutional, we can take action. So, I mean, I think we'll be watching with interest to see how this plays out.
Yeah, that must have been one pissed off judge for him to take it to a summary sentence.
Was upset, yeah.
Because the truth is, two wrongs can't make a right. The lawyer was wrong for interjecting when the verdict was being read by the judge. The court process gives you the opportunity to appeal. That's always there. And the lawyer understands this. Even if you don't like or agree with the judgment, you can't start interrupting or trying to push back while the judgment is being read. But on the other hand, like I said, he must have been quite pissed off. There's usually a relationship between the bar and the bench, and I'm sure they'll talk it out and he'll be out very soon.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Tolagbe and Devoe. Devoe, let's talk about this story about schools and compliance. Let me not push further to say international best practices, but local best practices, because we have standards and structures. Yeah, the problem is adhering to those, right? Guardian reports that Osun government shut 23 private schools, private, not public, for failure to meet standards. You understand what I infer? Okay, cool. So, just go ahead with your thoughts on this.
Yes, about 23 of them. Okay, this was an effort by the Ministry of Education within the states, headed by Florential Oladoyin, who said that the Governor Boyega Oyetala-led administration would ensure qualitative education within the states. So the reasons why these private schools were put under the hammer and shut down was: one, they were operating in dirty teaching environments; two, they had unqualified teachers; three, some of them were operating without renewing their licenses; fourthly, some of them were operating without even a license, okay, which is illegal. Now, the commissioner did say that agents of the state government will continue to fish out mushroom and substandard private schools within the states, because the state government was committed to producing critical thinkers who were globally competitive. Those are words we hardly hear within our public space. As you can see, the way public service operates, there's not much critical thinking. Now, yes, to your question.
I like how you keep using public.
Yes.
Yeah. So
to your question, what about the public schools? Has this same measure of enforcement and evaluation been applied to public schools? Because what standards have they put for private schools that have not been applied to public schools? Although Osun does have a history of trying to push education forward, if you remember the Okweoma revolution, yeah. However, what we say is this is good, and we expect every state to follow this in their various ministries and to ensure enforcement. Because what happens is that we have laws, we have lots of laws that's supposed to guide us and create a well-meaning society. However, many of these private schools, because of the collapse in the public school service, have taken opportunity to do all manner of things. So I'm really happy that this is coming on board, and I hope other states do copy this and exemplify it, because I would love to see more critical thinking and globally competitive graduates from our schools. I mean, it's a thing of pride, which we lost in these days, that our schools are not as attractive as before. Our students, both primary, secondary, and university, besiege even neighboring countries. I can tell you how 3 universities in Benin Republic, just across the border, that used to be French, but because of the influx of Nigerians to up to 99%, they had to convert to English schools.
99.
Yeah, so maybe if this stuff like this continues, our students can stay within the country and get qualitative education. So thumbs up, Osun State.
Well done. Thank you for that, Devoe. Dalvin from Yaba sent in this message on WhatsApp. Dalvin says, good morning, guys. So what happens now, speaking to the lawyer issue, especially, the issue between the lawyer and the judge, the magistrate.
Don't have a bear over it.
It says the lawyer has to get a lawyer. now. So in other news, Val, were you around during the pen pal era like Devoe mentioned earlier? Yes, I was. I recall a time where I sprayed perfume on a postcard and sent. Yeah. But anyway, let's get back to the stories this morning on Freshly Pressed 91 and Smooth 98.1. Tolagbe, The Guardian reports that airlines are planning to start issuing travel passes for travelers. And this is going by the new proposal made by IATA, the International Air Transport Association. What are your thoughts? And quick question, have you been vaccinated? Are you looking to do one?
I am so thrilled at all this because yes, one, I've been vaccinated. I had my vaccine last week. Yes. And as at yet, there are no horns.
I can see one. It's coming out from the right side.
Nah.
Perhaps. And if there's a chip, it's just adding to the chip that is in my phone and all the other devices that we use all day long. So I mean, the more the merrier, frankly. But yeah, this is really interesting because a couple of things have happened here. IATA has been running a trial with Singapore Airlines which, I mean, understandably, because Singapore in particular really made use of technology to manage COVID, to manage the pandemic, and had records of everyone coming in and were very strict about the quarantine. So it's not a mistake that they're trialing with Singapore. It's because the country itself was very ready for the tech that could sort of, integrate very seamlessly with this. So, and I think the significance of this to restarting in travel is incredible because right now, thanks to all the quarantines that are in place, you can't go anywhere for a weekend. You can't do any short trips. You can't make an impromptu trip. And that is devastating to the travel industry, the hospitality industry, and, even, so business is coping with, thanks to virtual technology, but where are we going with holidays and concerts and travel and sporting events, which again are very, we mustn't underestimate the impact of those on our economy in terms of, all the industries that are supported by that. So what it's looking like is all countries will have to have some kind of digital verification platform so that when people can travel with a verifiable document on their device, which will allow equivalence, mutual recognition, and acceptance of the certificates. And you see, this is something that one hopes Nigeria will sign on to very quickly because trust is important, right? So if there is a verifiable platform where, that can speak to the validity or the veracity of the certificate of the vaccine, that only helps to boost trust. And I'll be honest, I was listening to something yesterday, a press conference with Boris Johnson and his health secretary, and they're saying that we are going to be in this time. COVID is a part of life now. It's not going away. So let's quickly adapt to life with it. And this is one more way for us to get back to the new normal.
As much as I dislike that phrase, but that's what it.
Same here. But there was nothing else to use.
But it's here. It's here for a long time, like you said, Tolagbe. Thank you so much for that, and also emphasizing the fact that it bolsters the efforts, or the efforts of the PTF bolsters the chances of Nigeria adapting. I mean, being caught in that alignment in terms of the registration numbers, or rather serial numbers that are issued to each one at the point of vaccination. You got your card.
Is the test a reference of not vaccination?
No, I'm talking about vaccination. If you've been vaccinated,
okay. I'm talking about the travel passes for the test.
Oh, I see. All right. Thank you for that. Devoe Okorie, at Devoe Okorie on social media, at tolagbe.com on social media. Thank you so much for your robust analysis this morning, Freshly Pressed 91. Right. Stay with us on Smooth.